Goblin Tales of Lancashire by James Bowker, narrated by Malc Cowle. The Pillion Lady. It was on a beautiful night in the middle of summer that Humphrey Dobson, after having transacted a day's business at Garstang Market, and passed some mirthful hours with a number of jovial young fellows in the best parlour of the Francis Arms, with its oak furniture and peacock feathers, mounted his steady-going mare and set off for home. He had got some distance from the little town, and was rapidly nearing a point where the road crossed a stream, said to be haunted by the spirit of a female who had been murdered many years back. And although the moon was shining brightly, and the lonely rider could see far before him, there was one dark spot overshadowed by trees a little in advance, which Humphrey feared to reach. He felt a thrill of terror as he suddenly remembered the many strange stories told of the headless woman whose sole occupation and delight seemed to be that of terrifying travellers. But, with a brave endeavour to laugh off his fears, he urged his horse forward and attempted to troll forth the burden of an old song. He rode and he rode till he come to the door, and Nell came topping it as she'd done afore. Come get off thy horse, she to him did say, and put it in stable and give it some hay. It would not do, however, and suddenly he put spurs to the mare and galloped towards the little bridge. No sooner did the horse's hoofs ring upon the stones than Humphrey heard a weird and unearthly laugh from beneath the arch, and as the animal snorted and bounded forward, the young fellow felt an icy arm glide round his waist and a light pressure against his back. Drops of perspiration fell from his brow, and his heart throbbed wildly, but he did not dare to look behind, lest his worst fears should be verified, and he should behold the boggart of the brute. As though conscious of its ghastly burden, the old mare ran as she had never run before. The hedgerows and trees seemed to fly past, while sparks streamed from the flints in the road, and in an incredibly short space of time the farmhouse was reached. Instinctively, Humphrey tried to guide the mare into the yard, but his efforts were powerless, for the terrified animal had got the bit in her teeth, and away she sped past the gateway. As the rider was thus borne away, another sepulchral laugh broke the silence, but this time it sounded so close to the horseman's ear that he involuntarily looked round. He found that the figure, one of whose arms was twined round his waist, was not the headless being of whom he had heard so many fearful narratives, but another, and a still more terrible one, for grinning in a dainty little hood, and almost touching his face, there was a ghastly skull, with eyeless sockets and teeth gleaming white in the clear moonlight. Petrified by fear, he could not turn his head away, and as the mare bore him rapidly along, ever and anon a horrid derisive laugh sounded in his ears, as for a moment the teeth parted and then closed with a sudden snap. Terrified as he was, however, he noticed that the arm which encircled his body gradually tightened around him, and putting down his hand to grasp it, he found it was that of a fleshless skeleton. How long he rode thus embraced by a spectre he knew not, but it seemed an age. Suddenly, however, as at a turn in the road, the horse stumbled and fell. Humphrey, utterly unprepared for any such occurrence, was thrown over the animal's head and stunned by the fall. When he recovered full consciousness, it was daybreak. The sun was rising, the birds were singing in the branching foliage overhead, and the old mare was quietly grazing at a distance. With great difficulty, for he was faint through loss of blood and lame, he got home and told his story. There were several stout men about the farm who professed to disbelieve it, and pretended to laugh at the idea of a skeleton horsewoman, who, without saying with your leave or by your leave, had ridden Pillion with the young master. But it was somewhat remarkable that none of them afterwards could be induced to cross the bridge over the haunted stream after Thedjedah.